Inspired by Judy Blume's groundbreaking 1975 novel Forever, watch the reimagined coming-of-age series about young love by Mara Braca Keel, the iconic creator of Girlfriends. The epic love story follows two Black teens, Keisha and Justin, as they explore romance and their identities through the awkward journey of being each other's firsts. Watch Forever, now playing only on Netflix.
I'm a sneaker kind of girl. I love comfortable shoes, but I also want them to look cute. The New Balance 1080 is that versatile go-to sneaker that's ready for anything. I wear them to the gym, I wear them out on jogs, I wear them around the town to go get groceries, I do it all. You get the perfect mix of comfort and performance, so you're covered from coffee runs to race day. Runners love that cushioned midsole because it's got their back, or, well, actually their feet. But basically, it's this giant, cushiony, beautiful marshmallow shoe. Doesn't make sense until you put it on your feet, and then you're like, oh, yeah, Rach, this is just like walking in a marshmallow. Ready to upgrade your kicks? Shop the 1080 now at newbalance.com. Even if you are doing great financially right now, today, something can happen that will throw you right back into the scarcity mindset. Our friend who called in and asked this question, it's not that anything has happened to her finances. Did you guys catch that? She didn't say, I'm experiencing a financial downturn or I'm having the. No, she said, I'm starting a business. She's starting a business, which is reminding her of the fact that daddy was an entrepreneur and that daddy had to file for bankruptcy. And that is triggering an old wound. And the old wound is causing something to happen to her nervous system. What you need to understand is that you can be going along fine. And this scarcity piece can be laying dormant inside of you. And then a big life moment can happen. And for whatever reason, what you are going through is reminding you of something from your past that is creating a new filter that you're seeing the world through. Hey guys, it's Rach. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. And I have a favor, which sounds kind of harsh if we just met, but I'm assuming that most of you have been a part of this community for a hot minute. And so I gotta ask, are you subscribed to the podcast? Subscribing to the podcast you listen to regularly is one of the best things that you can do for hosts like me. It helps to support the show and the staff that works on it. It ensures that you never miss an episode when we drop a new one. And here's the cool thing about subscribing. If you do it and then you hate this show, just unsubscribe. It's one click away. In the meantime, if you're listening, we would so appreciate it if you would just tap that button and make it official. Hi guys, it's Rach. Welcome to another episode of the show, another Monday episode, which means we're going to take a deep dive and hopefully talk about something that will be really helpful to anyone who listens, because this episode is based on a question I got from one of you. Now, let me explain. Typically, I do Ask Rach episodes every Wednesday, which I hope you know. I hope you listen to the show enough to be down with which days of the week, which episodes happen. But this particular question was a great one and was also like so robust in answering that it needed an entire episode. And I really wanted to honor this question because I say pretty often in these Monday episodes, like, hey, if you want me to take a deep dive, if I said something you didn't understand, call and leave a voicemail and I will do an entire episode about it. And this caller did exactly that. And so I want to honor that. And hopefully in honoring that, encourage y'all. If I say something you're like, ooh, that's interesting, I wish you would have talked about that more, let me know. Because when I listen to podcasts all the time, I hear things and I'm like, oh, dang, I wish that host would have kind of gone down that rabbit trail. So that's what we're doing today. And before I dive into all my ideas, let's listen to the voicemail that we got from this listener.
Hey, Rach, you said if we needed a deeper dive to give you a holler, so here I am. I would love for you to take a deeper dive on financial scarcity. I grew up similar to you, where my father was not the best businessman and he was going bankrupt constantly. We had fear of losing our home. And now I'm starting my own business and I'm so excited and it's taking off and I'm holding on to all this fear that I'm going to emulate the failures that he had. And it's really stopping me to just putting myself out there and exploring other passive ways of income. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist, and I'm super passionate about working with kids and driving them and making changes in their lives. And I just don't want this to hold me back. Yeah, and it's really weighing on me. So when you said if anyone needed a deeper dive, this was my calling to give you a call. So I hope that you pick up on this and I get to hear your take. I'm super excited. I'm feeling this vibration that you might. So I'll hear from you soon. Thanks. Bye.
And you totally will, because here I am, and we're going to do an entire episode devoted to this question because it's such a good topic. It's such a good topic. And I have to tell y'all, I start any recording session with an intention. If you're listening to a Sunday episode, that's a pep talk. My goal with that is to fire you up before you start the week. If you're listening to an Ask Rach episode, my intention is like, I want you to feel like you're talking to your girlfriend over coffee and we're sharing ideas, and maybe it's silly or maybe it's insightful, but it's just sort of entertaining and gives you some information. But with today's episode, my intention is, number one, to answer our friend's question, but number two, I actually think it would be amazing if you're listening to this and you don't realize that you have a scarcity mindset when it comes to money or abundance or blessings or good things happening to you or lucky girl syndrome or any of the other fun little phrases people have given it on social media over the last 5 years. Maybe you have issue around this and you don't even know. So my intention is actually, can I explain this in a way that was really helpful for me to learn? And in doing so, can I give you some of what Oprah always called her aha moments? Can I give you a moment where you're like, holy crap, I am doing that right now in my relationship and I didn't even realize it. With that in mind, let's jump into all the thoughts I have on scarcity mindset. To be totally real, if you've never heard me talk about this before, this topic hits pretty close to home. It hits close to home because I grew up in an environment where finances were, what is a nice way to say this? My parents really struggled financially. I think in some ways, working class family, you take the job that you can get. I think in some ways that was at times not making great financial decisions. And to be fair, my parents didn't have a great model of financial health. They then didn't maybe know what to do when it came to finances, and therefore wasn't something that they could give to their children. I think that things look different today. I think there's so much more information available to anybody around any topic in 2025 than there was in 1983. But to give all credit to them and any adults or parents like that, there wasn't a lot of information. And if you're just working to survive, it's not like you're actively going to the library on the weekends and trying to find the one book. Like, I don't even know how they would have pursued a healthy financial lifestyle, right? So this is not me talking trash to my parents. They did the very best that they could. But the environment that I grew up in, I wouldn't even have known necessarily that that was the cause of so much strife. Because when you're little, you're not really sure what people are arguing about. You could feel the fear, you could feel the anxiety, but you wouldn't necessarily have known what that was related to. When you get older, you see and experience things that make you realize that money is an issue. And that looks like, oh, my friend has an Adidas jacket, and there is no freaking world where I am ever going to have an Adidas jacket because we can't afford that. Like, I think there were kids who would be like, oh, could I have this thing? And then it was like, well, maybe you can have it for Christmas. That was not the home I grew up in. I grew up in a home, like I'm sure a lot of y'all, where it wouldn't even have occurred to me to ask because it was so ingrained in us from the time that we were little that we couldn't afford something that we wouldn't even have tried. Because if you asked, you would probably be met with anger, which I've done enough therapy to understand why that might trigger a parent to anger. If you feel fear because you can't provide, if you feel embarrassed because you can't buy your kid the cool jacket, like there's so many layers, so many freaking layers. We do not need to get into a therapy session, but I'm pointing all of this out because there's a good chance you have your own version of this. And here's like the headline for the entire episode and for our friend who asked this question. Whatever you saw modeled as a child, as it pertains to finances, to blessings, to abundance. I really want to be clear on the words I'm using because for some people, this shows up in a scarcity around the kind of relationship you can have, a scarcity around the kind of body you can have. It's not just with money. It's whatever you saw modeled for you, whatever sort of permeated your being as a little kid is what you are walking around with today, unless you've actively done the work to unpack that belief system and change the way that you believe. So whatever you grew up seeing around money, like if you think of the terms you heard a lot, if money is the root of all evil, money doesn't grow on trees, that's for rich people, that's not, we can't afford that, we can't have that, you know I can't do that, maybe at payday, sorry we don't have enough, like whatever those terms were that you heard, even if you're not conscious of it, man, that is in your deepest subconscious. Let's dive in. For me, the things I remember most surrounding money were watching my parents fight about it. That was a really common thing that happened. And scarcity and insecurity surrounding food. Many, many, many families. Our family lived paycheck to paycheck. So if you got toward the end of a paycheck cycle, there wouldn't be food in the fridge and there wouldn't be food in the pantry. There wouldn't be food to eat. And I was really lucky because I went to a school that had like, you could get breakfast for like a quarter and you could get lunch. And that was, I'm like really grateful that existed. But there wasn't always food. And in a lot of ways, it felt like my memory of it, and you have to remember, I'm the baby of 4. In a lot of ways, like I remember my younger childhood feeling like there wasn't food and maybe there wasn't a lot of concern on my parents' part that there wasn't food. Like I sort of have the memory of like them thinking someone else was gonna, maybe my dad thought my mom was on that and my mom thought like my older sisters would be on that. But I just remember being little, 7, 8 years old, and there not being something to eat. And I remember there would be like maybe dry goods, like there would be rice or there would be beans in the pantry. But I was little and I remember I was a latchkey kid, so I was home by myself. And I remember like not knowing how to make that into food. Even saying it, like it makes me so sad. It literally makes me want to cry because I think about my daughter who is 8 years old in 2nd grade. And I think how crazy it is. And I know times were different, but I think how crazy it is that at her age, y'all, at her age, I got myself up for school, made my lunch, walked to school, came home, let myself in the door and was by myself, or like maybe my brother would be there, but like we would be by ourselves until my mom came home from work. And they worked really hard and they were trying to support a family. So like, thank God they were at work, right? But at the same time, there's just like a lot of sadness and fear I have around lack of funds when I was little. And let's just quick side note, also look at what the swing of that is. If any of y'all have struggled with comforting yourself with food as an adult because you didn't have access to it when you were little, that's a scarcity mindset. I freaking get that. That was like such a huge deal for me when I got a job and started making my own money. Freaking all of my money went to food. It went to going out to dinner, to going to lunch, to like buying a brand name item at the grocery store. Like I seriously spent so much money on food for myself and just indulge. It's still a huge deal. I'm 42. I've had money and been able to support myself for a while, and I still think it's like the biggest deal in the world to go out to dinner. And I can swing that back to not having access to it. If you think that this isn't affecting you, if you grew up in an environment and you haven't done the work to understand why you're making the choices that you're making, it's going to keep ruling your life in certain areas.
Inspired by Judy Blume's groundbreaking 1975 novel Forever, watch the reimagined coming-of-age series about young love by Mara Braca-Keel, the iconic creator of Girlfriends. The epic love story follows two Black teens, Keisha and Justin, as they explore romance and their identities through the awkward journey of being each other's firsts. Watch Forever, now playing only on Netflix.
I think you guys know this, but in case you don't, my happy place is on the beach. Actually, that's not enough. My happy place is on the beach with an iced coffee in my hand. What a vibe. There are a lot of beaches out there, but there's only one people call the beach. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, is made up of 14 coastal communities and 60 miles of sunny beaches. Together, they create a place that makes you feel like you belong. Shine and dine in a foodie haven with oceanfront patios, fresh seafood, low country classics, and southern favorites. Plus, my favorite, you can listen to live music any day of the year, outside at laid-back beach bars, at world-renowned theaters, or right on the boardwalk. You belong at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Plan your trip to the beach at visitmyrtlebeach.com. When you are inside of those environments, you start to internalize fear, even if you don't understand it. You start believing, even if it's just subconscious, in this idea of there not being enough. Or let's talk about food and indulging in food. You're like, this is my only chance. You ever do that where you like sit down at a meal and even though you're not thinking of it consciously, like on some level you're like, well, I'll never be able to eat Mexican food again, so I should clean my plate. I literally am still trying to teach myself this as an adult. I eat super healthy, super clean. But if I'm going to have an indulgent meal, it is so hard for me to not eat the entire thing. Kez and I went to dinner last night. We went on a date and we went to one of my favorite places to get a burger. I'll just tell you, it's Soho House. Soho House has a smash burger. It is delicious. So good. It's usually where I go on my birthday. I go get a smash burger. It was like very exciting. We're going to go get a smash burger on our date. And it's beyond so good. And everything about this experience is amazing. And there's like live music and I'm just feeling so happy and I'm eating my burger. And I had to fight myself not to eat the whole thing. I was no longer hungry. I am freaking full, but I'm still eating it because on some level I'm like, I'm never going to get this again. these kinds of past experiences affect us on so many levels. And it's not just my own personal opinion on this. I looked it up. Studies in developmental psychology show that children raised in low-income households are more likely to develop chronic stress responses, which impacts everything from attention span to decision-making to emotional regulation to physical health. Think of it like the Hunger Games, right? Remember, I feel like everybody has seen the Hunger Games at this point. In the beginning of those books, in the beginning of that movie, like all of this stuff is going on. Katniss does not care. Katniss is just trying to feed her family. She's like, it's fine. Prim, you don't need to worry. Like, this doesn't affect us. We're just over here trying to survive. I'm trying to catch a wild turkey to feed our family. If at the most basic level, you don't feel like you have enough of something, it doesn't matter what's going on at the Capitol. It doesn't matter what's going on in other parts of your life. On your subconscious level, you're going to have fear of the most basic things. So if you will indulge me for a moment, I would like to explain what this is in a term I think I've talked about in like my last 3 books, because I think it's so important to understand. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I assume that you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and if you haven't, allow me to explain it, because it's going to all come together and I hope sort of click in place for you how this might be affecting your life. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a psychological theory that says that we cannot do anything. We can't accomplish anything. We can't have a healthy relationship. We can't achieve our dreams. We can't be good parents. We cannot do anything if our most basic needs have not been met. Before you could achieve higher level things like creativity or living with purpose, if your most basic needs, things like food, water, shelter, physical safety, stuff like that, if those don't feel locked into place for you, you will never be able to go up the ladder to the bigger stuff. Here's why that matters for anybody who grew up in an environment where it felt like there wasn't enough money. In today's world, food, shelter, physical safety, that's where you live, all of those things are tied to money. If you grew up in an environment where you didn't always know if your needs would be met, right? If you've ever worried about paying rent, if you've ever worried about how you're going to get gas in your car, if you've never paid for gas with like a roll of dimes, so many of you are old enough to get this. If you never paid for gas with the coins from the slot, if you've never dug under your seats for some quarters to put gas in your car, maybe you don't know what we're talking about right now. If you've ever not had money for groceries, if you've ever spent years, like I did, buying your groceries exclusively from the 99-cent store, if you've lived through that stuff, your nervous system remembers. Unless you have done your work, you did your therapy, you really sat with it, unless you've done the work to unpack that, your nervous system remembers. You can be in your 50s listening to this conversation right now, and you know intellectually you are safe, you are good, you've got money in the bank, you got a roof over your head, everyone's safe. You know that intellectually, but your nervous system might still be a 4-year-old kid who doesn't know where dinner's coming from. It's hard to feel confident. It's hard to feel abundant when you are stuck in survival mode. Because survival mode does not have to be based on anything real. Survival mode most often is a memory. We are acting inside of a memory of a past experience and not even realizing it. And here's the data. There's research from a study at Princeton that shows people experiencing financial scarcity perform worse on cognitive tests because literally their brains are just trying to live. If you're in fight or flight mode, even if nothing is actually happening to push you into that, if you're dealing with anxiety, if you're in this survival state with your nervous system, it is going to be impossible for you to really thrive outside of that, to really focus outside of that, to really write well, speak well, parent well, lead well. You're not going to be able to do any of the things that I know you want to do if you're in that mode. And it's not a moral failure. You have not done anything wrong. The first step to healing this is to understand that there's a problem you need to face in the first place. Did you know over 65% of adults in the US are magnesium deficient? That can lead to muscle cramps, brain fog, headaches, and insomnia. Symbiotica's magnesium L-threonate is the only form that crosses the blood-brain barrier, delivering nutrients straight to your brain for better memory, focus, and mood. Symbiotica's formulas are pure, no artificial additives or hidden ingredients. It's a difference you can feel. With thousands of 5-star reviews, people swear by it. Refresh your spring routine with 20% off plus free shipping at symbiotica.com/rach. That's symbiotica.com/RACH. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Y'all know I love therapy. I think I've done every kind of therapy at this point, and I know how important it is. But one of the coolest things to have seen over the last few decades is how so many of the stigmas surrounding mental health have shifted and changed. When I was 14, I went to therapy for the very first time, and that was because my brother had passed away after a long and harsh battle with mental illness. And I remember when he was a teenager how taboo it was to talk about struggling with your mental health or to be seeing a doctor. But over the last 10 years, BetterHelp has revolutionized therapy because they made it fully online, affordable, and convenient. BetterHelp serves over 5 million people worldwide. It's easy to switch therapists at any time, so if you're new to therapy, this is a great way to get started. We're all better with help. Visit betterhelp.com/rach to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rach. I heard Tyler Perry say this quote that I've probably shared on this podcast 100 times because I love it so much and it felt so accurate to my own experience. He said, "If you've ever been hungry, then you'll never be full. Even if you are doing great financially right now, today, something can happen that will throw you right back into the scarcity mindset." Our friend who called in and asked this question, it's not that anything has happened to her finances. Did you guys catch that? She didn't say, I'm experiencing a financial downturn or I'm having this. No, she said, I'm starting a business. She's starting a business, which is reminding her of the fact that daddy was an entrepreneur and that daddy had to file for bankruptcy. And that is triggering an old wound. And the old wound is causing something to happen to her nervous system. What you need to understand is that you can be going along fine. And this scarcity piece can be laying dormant inside of you. And then a big life moment can happen. And for whatever reason, what you are going through is reminding you of something from your past that is creating a new filter that you're seeing the world through. This can be getting laid off, going through a divorce. It could be something that's just like symbolic, like you get a big unexpected expense, like the car breaks down and you totally have the money to fix it, but something about that experience reminds you of a time where you didn't. You know, this listener who called in, she just started a business and it's bringing up old anxiety because daddy was an entrepreneur too. Her memories of watching him as an entrepreneur are rooted in fear and rooted in lack. And so she is now projecting his story onto her experience. Our fear doesn't often come from what's happening right now. I would say the bulk of our fears is wrapped up in things that have happened in the past that we have not yet healed from. And have you ever heard that definition of trauma, particularly as it pertains to childhood trauma? I can't remember which doctor I was speaking to, but it was an interview I did here on the show. And I was asking them to explain trauma. And it was something as simple and as brilliant as any time you go through something as a child that you are incapable of processing and that there is no one around who helps you to process it, it's like a part of you splinters off. This thing happens and it's like, okay, this version of me at 5 years old, I couldn't handle this thing that I experienced. I didn't have a frame of reference for what I was going through, and I didn't have anyone to help me with it. So it's like a part of you is forever frozen at that age. A part of you is forever a 5-year-old watching mom and daddy fight about not being able to pay the bills. And so that little 5-year-old will still show up inside of you in moments that remind them of the experience. I have had so many moments like that. And even in seasons where I was making great money, like if everything on the surface was like, you are good, like I could look at my bank account and see you have plenty. If not another dime came in, like your kids would be safe, you would be fine. And I still would just be drowning in fears and anxiety surrounding finances. And the irony, I guess, is that it is not more money that helps you feel calm about money. It is your mindset shift around money. This is like gold. What I am saying right now is gold. If you have a scarcity around finances, I mean, this is true for anything, but we're talking about money today. If you have a scarcity around finances, I freaking promise you, there's no amount of money that makes that go away. Honestly, go listen to interviews with so many high achievers, big financial winners who will talk about it's never enough. They still have to keep striving. They're still afraid it's going to be taken away. It is not the money that will make you feel safe. It is deciding that you are going to change your belief structure and your mindset around this topic. That's what makes the change. So I remember very distinctly, and I've talked about this on the show before, and I'm going to share my favorite way to do this later in the episode. But I remember very distinctly going on a journey to shift my mindset around finances. And it happened in like 2020, 2021. I was going through a really messy divorce and one that was wrapped up in financials. And I felt like, to be totally honest, coming outside of that relationship, I was like, I'll be fine. Like I'm a writer. I know how to support myself. I will do these things. In my very naive little mind, I thought, okay, we'll just like take what we have, we'll split it in half, and then we'll go our separate ways. And it did not occur to me ever that I would want anything from him after we were separated, but that did not go both ways. So I found myself, not only am I needing to support myself, but now I need to support this person and my kids. And again, I'm like, I can do all things, right? Like we can figure this out. But it just felt so, the weight of that felt so absolutely insurmountable to me. at the time. And I would look at my bank account. I would be trying to figure out the math on like how long would we be okay if I couldn't, oh my God, you guys can imagine, right? Like, and maybe some of you live this. Maybe some of you are financially responsible for your family. And so you understand the pressure of that. And it was so scary for me. And it didn't matter how much money I had. I was petrified for like a good year. For a solid year, I just lived with anxiety. Woke up every day and was so anxious about it and so fearful. And after about a year, I tend to like get sick of myself. I'll allow myself to feel my feelings and like wallow and do whatever. And at some point I just get sick of it. And I'm like, girl, we cannot. So I was like, I have to do something to get past this fear, because also vibrationally, and I'm going to get into some vibration because you're hanging out with me, so I'm going to talk about it. But vibrationally, if your fear is all that you're seeing, all that you're thinking about, you better believe that whatever financial streams, whatever abundant streams were coming into your life are going to dry up like water in the desert. The law of attraction, we're going there, says that we don't get what we want in life, we get what we are. That things are drawn to things like themselves. Money is attracted to money, like opportunity is attracted to opportunity. People who are lucky get luckier. Like, why do those things happen? People who talk about how crappy the world is keep finding examples of how crappy the world is. Women who go on the dating apps and talk about how all men are trash and every guy they meet is a POS, guess what they're going to find on the dating apps? Whatever vibe you're putting out into the universe is always saying yes. The universe is always saying yes. Whatever you are putting out is what is coming back to you. And it doesn't mean that you're going to have one negative thought or 5 negative thoughts or have a bad day and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, the flow of everything's going to change and now I'm only going to get negativity. It's not that. But if all of a sudden for a year, everything around money for me is fear-based and I'm going to run out and there's not going to be enough and it's too much pressure and I don't know how to support and like all of this stuff, guess what I'm going to create in my life? Now, I'm going to assume that most people listening to this episode are not Warren Buffett. It would be amazing. Wouldn't it be amazing if Warren Buffett was secretly a huge fan of this podcast? Assuming that you are not the Oracle of Omaha. Assuming that you're just like a regular person listening to this. There's a solid chance that you are going to walk through things in your life that trigger you in some way and trigger you into a philosophy of not enough. If you can recognize that that will happen, or perhaps you're listening to this and you recognize that it has already happened, then it takes the power away from that experience. You're like, oh, dang, that's what's going on right now. This is not who I am. This is something that has happened to my subconscious based on past experiences. And if I can be triggered into it, I can also walk myself back out of it. But there are beliefs that you can experience in life that will keep you in that stuck, that will keep you in a scarcity mentality. And they're sneaky because those beliefs don't always sound like scarcity. Do you ever grow up in a home where you had nice dishes, like nice china, or like the nicer stuff, the nicer napkins, the nicer plates, but you only were allowed to use those on special occasions, but you never remember using them? Any of you have that? I totally have that. The women in my family, like grandmas, aunts, they would have nice stuff. And it would, as a little girl, you'd see, oh, this is so pretty. And they'd be like, don't touch that. It'd be in the china hutch. If you were fancy enough, if you had a meemaw with a china hutch. And she'd be like, that's for a nice occasion. But literally, I don't ever remember Mima using those plates. Ever, ever, ever. Because those were for a fancy occasion. Oh, I can't splurge on myself. Maybe you have more than enough money to do it, but I can't splurge on myself. I'd love to get a massage, but that's so crazy. I don't want to do, I can't afford that when you totally can afford it. You just are terrified of what happens if the money runs out. The other thing that people fall into here is that they can hustle enough to make enough money to outrun that belief that they carry, right? If you're not grinding 24/7, then the money stops flowing to you. If you've never read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, I can't even believe you hang out with me and you haven't read that book. You need to get it immediately. But a scarcity mindset is one that is fixed. A scarcity mindset doesn't believe that anything can change, doesn't believe that it's possible for things to get better. Scarcity mindset says there's never enough and there will never be enough. A scarcity mindset thinks that you can't have something because someone else already has it. They got your blessing. They got the money, so I can't have any money, or they got the great relationship there. All the good guys are taken. That we have this idea that is absolutely keeping us stuck in this place. And the opposite of those thoughts is what will set you free. We have to choose to believe something else. There is always enough to go around. Always. Literally, the world has never run out of money. At any given moment, you are surrounded by so much money. Wherever you're listening to this right now, whether you're in your apartment, that means there are apartments next to you. If you're walking through a grocery store, if you're driving down the highway, just think of all the money that is surrounding you right now. Think of all the abundance, right? Maybe you're driving your RAV4 down the 405, you're listening to this, and all around you, maybe there's beautiful homes, maybe there's fancy cars. You're surrounded by abundance. It's so close you could touch it. You have always been provided for. This one was huge for me. This was so healing for me, this thought. God has always taken care of me. She will always take care of me, even in the scariest financial situations of my life, even with, gonna park the car around the corner just in case someone tries to repossess it and maybe they can't find it in my driveway. My phone getting shut off, the lights getting shut off, not having gas money. I've told you guys that story about the bank teller loaning me $5 because I literally had no money to get gas and my check hadn't cleared. Such terrible financial straits that I've been in. And I'm fine. I'm right here talking to you guys, sharing this story. I have always been provided for, and I will always be provided for. Here's another one that I love. I now see money as a flow of energy. I believe money flows to me because I put that money back out into the world. I don't think that money flows to me because I hoard it away and I don't want anyone to touch it. I believe that I get energy in the form of money and I do everything I can to bless everyone in my life with the money that comes to me, and it just flows like a river and it will keep flowing. Does that mean that I'm making the same amount of money every single year of my life? No, sure doesn't. I've had years where I made more than I thought was possible and years where I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's where we're at. But it always flows. It continues to flow. I see signs from the universe all the time yep, we're safe. We got this. We move in faith because of that belief system. Based on all of that information, maybe you've seen that you have passed that something about it is making you feel a certain kind of way about finances, I would love to share my favorite hack for this, just like tactical thing that you can do today to change your belief system around finances. The first thing is, could you hold space for the possibility, even if you think that I am a lunatic and I am a hippie, I'm probably both of those things, and I don't know what I'm talking about, would you just suspend disbelief for a couple of weeks and imagine for a moment that money, however that shows up for you, is a vibration? Yes, it's like physical, whatever. But for most of us now, money is something, we're not even holding a physical object. Money is often numbers in a bank account, right? Or like using our phone to pay for the coffee. Like, could you just hold space for a minute? Could you suspend belief of what you've thought money is and allow yourself to consider money as an energy, money as a vibration? And in doing so, also hold space for the idea that we don't attract more of what we want. We attract more of what we are. If you are someone who is living in scarcity, if you have fear around money, if you have anger around money, if you have bitterness, rage, whatever you are feeling around money, you are going to attract more of that thing as it relates to money. If you're constantly worried, if you're afraid, if you're living in lack, if you don't know how you're going to pay your bills, if it's so stressful, if it's so anxious, I freaking get it, bro. I have lived in that. But that anxiety you're feeling surrounding this issue, it's not going to help pay the bills. Your anxiety is making you sick to your stomach, making your life so much harder. Is it actually giving you more money? No. What would it look like to fight for a bit of peace, even as you're like, yeah, I for sure don't know how I'm paying the water bill and it's overdue. I don't know how I'm doing that, but I'm going to fight for a shift into peace around the fact, yep, God, you're going to have to get this one because I really don't know what I'm going to do. You become a magnet for more positive energy by finding some peace wherever you can, finding some peace wherever you can. And this isn't just like me being woo-woo. This is also a tactic, right? For those of you who are more practical, let's not talk about woo-woo. Let's talk about positive psychology. In a positive emotional state, our ability to think creatively and to solve problems and to pursue opportunity in a positive state, that increases exponentially. So whether you want a woo-woo approach to this or a practical approach to this, just know that when you're feeling better, you're thinking more clearly, you're going to see more opportunity, you're going to see workaround, you're going to be kinder to yourself, you're going to be kinder to the people that you love. It's just going to feel better all around. And chances are you've tried the alternative. You've tried beating yourself up. You've tried the anxiety. You've tried the depression. You've tried the anger. You've tried the bitterness. You've tried the I'm going to blame my ex. You've tried the if only I had this. You've tried the it's those people's fault because they have the thing that I want. You've tried it. And it's not working for you. So let's try something new. Here is my favorite, absolute favorite tactic for this. And I'll use money, but honestly, you can use this for anything that you want to attract in your life that you don't currently have. Guys, this is so good. This is so good. Okay, she says herself, because this has worked for me over and over and over again. I want you to think of the thing you want. You want more friends, right? You wish you had more community in your life. All of these things are abundance, right? This is all different forms of abundance. So let's say you want more friends, you want more community, you want like besties. You don't have a really close-knit group of friends. Or let's say you want more opportunity at work. Work's feeling really stale. It's kind of the same old thing. Like you just really want more opportunity at work. Let's say you want more money. You're like, straight up, girl, I need to pay these bills. I want I want more money and I want it to come to me easily and I don't want to have to do this, that, and the other. I just want money to flow to me. Okay. Just making up ideas here. You're going to identify something in your life that you want to attract more of. And I really believe that in order to attract that thing, you have to put out that vibration into the world. How do we do that? How do we put out the vibration of money flows to me easily? How do we put out the vibration of I have great friends in my life? A lot of people will be like, get an affirmation and say the affirmation 1,000 times a day. It's not enough. It doesn't, if you can't feel a shift in your energy in your body, like if you can't feel your feelings change, then nothing actually happened. Nothing energetically happened if you didn't feel something happen. So what I like to do is I like to think of an experience that is like the feeling I would have if I got the thing I wanted. So I literally have pages in my journal where I have written down the things that I want to attract into my life. And let's say friends, right? Like, oh, I want more friends in my life. I want you to make that your header. I want more community. I want friends. I want you to think about what that would look like, what that would feel like. And then I want you to add 3 or 4 bullets underneath that header of what you have experienced that felt like that. And I mean, if you're 57 and the last time you felt a close-knit group of friends like you were imagining is when you were 14, put that down. Me and Debbie and Patty went to summer camp, greatest summer of my life. We played games. I always say this to you guys, when you're trying to tap into the energy of something, you need to see it like a movie in your mind. That's the easiest way that I know of to tap into the emotions of something, is to replay it in as much detail as possible. If the last time you experienced friendship and community is when you were 14 years old, write about it. Okay, so that, and like, oh, wow, that feels so good. I remember exactly what it felt like to have besties like that. Okay, next bullet. When I was getting married, I remember that my bridesmaids like just made me feel so special. They threw me that shower and they gave those toasts and they were just like the best. I just remember being so happy. And look, here's what our minds try to do. You try and think of a fun experience and then your mind's like, yeah, but you don't talk to them anymore. Yeah, but you're not you don't go to summer camp anymore. You haven't talked to Debbie in 32 years, right? Our brains try and fill in why that's going to go sour. We are not looking for the whole story. We're looking for the feeling. We want to tap back into the feeling of what it's like to have a close-knit group of community. We want to tap into the feeling of what it's like to have opportunity at work. We want to tap into the feeling of what it's like to have a mentor, the feeling of what it's like when you got an unexpected check in the mail, you did your taxes wrong, hooray, they actually owe you money. Like, what did it feel like to experience that? And I like to give myself 3 or 4 options that all feel really good, that are memories I can tap into. So if one day I go to remember one thing and I'm just not having that click, like that energy shift in my body, I'll pick a different one. Meditate on that thing every morning while you're having your coffee, or when you're driving to work, or at night as you're falling asleep, on the good feelings of like having friends and just feeling gratitude for what you experienced when you experienced it. It's like when we had something and then it goes away, we paint it with a brush that says, this ended badly. But there were a lot of good moments when that was still around. And we can mine a lot of good vibes from remembering that. So if you're trying to attract more money into your life, or if you're like the friend who called in and asked this question, for her, I would tap into every time I experience financial abundance and a feeling of safety and contentment and joy around getting paid in business. That's what I would do. I would be like, when I got my first paycheck at my first job at the substation downtown making deli sandwiches, what did that feel like? When I got money for babysitting my little cousins all summer, and it was the most money I'd ever gotten in my life, what did that feel like? I would tap into all of the times that I've experienced financial success in life. You do not have to have experienced it exactly as you hope to in the future. You just have to tie into the vibrational level that you are aiming at. What you are aiming at is, I want to do this job, I'm really passionate about it, and I want to experience financial freedom at the same time. Meditate on that feeling of the thing that you want to attract. Like I said, as often as you can, and watch how fast stuff shows up in your life. Watch. In fact, if you do that, could I challenge you guys to do this for 30 days? Do you remember years ago when we did the $10 challenge? And I challenged you all to go out into the world and ask the universe to send you $10. And we got the most outrageous voicemails here on the podcast of people being like, I cannot believe this worked, because the universe sends you what you are looking for. And the universe always says yes. And when you say, universe, this is the exact feeling, this is the exact experience I'm trying to have, the universe is like, okay, gotcha. Because you're not focusing on anything else. You're not focusing on what happened with daddy's businesses. You're not focusing on that fear. You're not focusing on letting people down. You're not projecting. You are only allowing in those thoughts that feel good. And watch what happens. I think a lot of us experience scarcity around different things in our life. But just because you have a really good justification for why that shows up for you does not mean that this is the rest of your story, right? Like, you get to decide what you do with that information, and I hope you will choose to do something that empowers you and makes your life feel better. I hope this episode gave you some tools to start releasing scarcity mindset you have around anything. You don't have to do this perfectly. You don't even have to fix your money situation overnight, but you can start changing the story you tell yourself around what's possible. Y'all, if this episode was helpful, I hope you will consider sharing it with a friend who might need to hear this too. If you have not subscribed to my Sunday newsletter, I write y'all an email every single week. You can find that link in the show notes. You get tools and ideas just like this one. But more than anything, I hope you will remember, you are not alone. You are not behind. You are not broken. You have always been provided for, and you will always be provided for. I love you, and I'm rooting for you. The Rachel Hollis podcast is produced by me, Rachel Hollis. It's edited by Andrew Weller and Jack Noble. Have you ever noticed how celebrities have brighter, whiter looking eyes? Their makeup artists have a little secret in their kit: Lumify Redness Reliever Eye Drops. Lumify dramatically reduces redness in just 1 minute. It literally happens right before your eyes. It helps your eyes look brighter, whiter, and more awake for up to 8 hours. No wonder Lumify is so loved by influencers, celebrities, and makeup artists, and has over 6,000 5-star reviews on Amazon. Lumify is also the #1 eye doctor recommended redness reliever eye drop, and it's FDA approved. No bleach, no dyes, just incredible results. Plus, it's made by the eye care experts at Bausch & Lomb. So whether you're on set, on a date, or running on just a few hours of sleep, Lumify can help your eyes look brighter and whiter. When you try it, you'll see that it's what your eyes have been looking for. Check out LumifyEyes.com to learn more.
Hey everybody, it's Rob Lowe here. If you haven't heard, I have a podcast that's called Literally with Rob Lowe. And basically it's conversations I've had that really make you feel like you're pulling up a chair at an intimate dinner between myself and people that I admire, like Aaron Sorkin or Tiffany Haddish, Demi Moore, Chris Pratt, Michael J. Fox. There are new episodes out every Thursday. So subscribe, please, and listen wherever you get your podcasts.